Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So I'm a little bit behind with the background and everything else, but Nick is now an official part of the show because I finally dug up all the old files, and I managed to change the audio on the video intro. So welcome, Nick. You're now official.
Thank you.
Now we can really start the abuse. Like, we went easy on you before.
Nobody? Works for me. Easy's not fun.
All right. Well, we have one person already in the comments. Raggle Fraggle. Hey, guys.
What's up, dude?
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So let's do the administrative work real quick. It's going to be quick and simple. Patrons, thank y'all for supporting our autism and our nerdism. Y'all keep the show going. Y'all keep me from having to go into debt to run the show, and I greatly appreciate that. Because the minute I have to start, who's throwing up stuff?
My camera just completely freaking decided was like, I'm going to lay down.
I was about to say, my co-host is sabotaging our own show. Brutal.
I haven't been on in a while. Let me be.
Yeah, turn up your, you know what? I'm going to turn up your audio because you're a little bit too quiet.
That's because I bumped the audio.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not cutting any of this, by the way. This is all staying in.
This is my first day.
So, other than thanking the patrons, merch. The links are in the show description. It's Southern Gal Crafts. Nick has his shirt. I choose violence. All the shirts, I have to say, and I have to say this because my wife designed half of them, more than half. So, if I don't, then I have to sleep on the couch, and I'm not into that. But the shirts are hilarious. They definitely captured the essence of our insanity quite well, I think.
Absolutely.
And Prepper Camp. Prepper Camp is coming up in a week. Like a week from today, I will be pulling into Saluda, North Carolina, ready to break bread with all the other sociopaths for a weekend, and it's going to be a blast. So if you're coming, you should definitely go down to the vendors area, and you should look for us. We'll have a booth down there. We're not selling squat. We have some stickers to give away to the faithful. We have a couple things to show you all in the booth just to get your gears turning. We want to meet people and talk to people and invite them to come on to the show as a guest because we're going to be podcasting at Prepper Camp again. And we'll be right next to the Disaster Coffee booth where I believe I'm going to be shanghaied to do a coffee roasting demonstration a couple days a week or a couple of the days over the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Is it Shanghai if you had the idea?
Was it my idea? Because I don't remember it going down like that.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that was your and James' idea.
It might have been my idea, and then you were like, "Yeah, that sounds cool."
So in other words, I got voluntold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, come see us. Unfortunately, Nick will not be there.
Not this year.
Not this year. So hopefully, maybe one year. But no, come see us at the MOF booth. Also, Disaster Coffee. If you are listening to this, if you have not heard, Phil and I bought into, and basically, I mean, not necessarily bought into, but we teamed with James for Disaster Coffee. So now we are part owners of Disaster Coffee. Got some great things coming down the pipe with that. New website is up, and we got some new teas that are coming out. We got some new coffee flavors that are coming out. I'm currently working with Uncle Randy on a coffee flavor that he's trying to pick out right now. So hopefully I don't think that's going to be done by Prepper Camp, but yeah, no, there's a lot of cool things happening, just kind of branching out, and everything. So, come see us, and we'll be down at Prepper Camp. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Not to inflate your head, but the website redesign, it was on point. It wasn't bad before, but what you built, I think, is so much more user-friendly and streamlined. I'm just hoping the customer enjoys it as much as I did.
Yeah, I'm hoping. It took a little figuring out, but it was fun. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. So I hope it works out well with the customers. I hope it's a little bit more user friendly than what than before. I hope that I don't know. I mean, and people, if you guys are having issues, please let me know, or whatever. So I don't know. More things to come. I'm excited about that whole aspect. So yeah. So anyway,
Anyway, so the topic of the night is revenge of the night vision nerds because we've done a show about night vision. We had the guys from US Night Vision on. They talked us through the company perspective on night vision, the company history, and they kind of gave everyone enough food for thought to commit felonious assault on their savings account. And if you're still on the fence, just remember, your kids aren't that smart anyway. They don't need to go to college.
well, yeah, but
Kids.
either A, don't have kids, or B, I mean, nowadays, by the time kids get to college, it's going to be so inflated that they can't afford it. So,
I mean, either that or we'll all be in a foreign land wearing, flags on our shoulders.
right.
Nobody's going to college.
Man, they didn't want asthmatics back in '08. They probably don't want them now. I think I'm safe.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, and that is like that's a show topic for a whole nother time. But I'm gonna tell you that some of the waiver requests I've seen coming out of the Army lately, it's shocking. Like stuff they never would have tolerated amongst recruits before. They are actively trying to get waivers for and succeeding. It is going to be hilarious and terrifying to watch in equal parts. But I'm here for it. Considering I enlisted from 2006, and then when I tried to go to officer candidate school in 2009, they said no because, apparently getting mortared for a year and high risk PTSD was a good reason to preclude somebody from joining. But nowadays, I mean, I'm 41, I'm fat, and I'm bald, and have a beard halfway down in my belly. I could probably walk into a recruiter's office and they do backflips trying to get me in. So who knows?
Prior service too.
Yeah. I don't know if that'd be a plus or a minus in my case because I actually know enough to know that there's some silly stuff going on these days. But Revenge of the Night Vision Nerds is on the docket. Andrew and I were going to talk through some of the things we've been doing in that night vision vein. And Nick, I'm telling you, we're going to twist your arm into cracking open the nest egg.
I know a guy.
You can resist as long as you want. You can resist as long as you want, but as long as you admit that sooner or later you're going to lose the battle.
It's not a matter of resistance. It's a matter of refilling the emergency fund after my air conditioner decided it was giving up the ghost, which is about the same cost as night vision.
But to be fair, where you live, it doesn't get that hot, so you don't need you don't need air conditioning.
It's 92 outside.
It's not 92 down here on the Gulf Coast. What the hell?
Illinois. We get the worst of everything.
You know what it is? It's that hell is closer to your state than mine, and that's why it's hotter there.
And very well could be. No, I've been seriously looking into night vision ever since since before you guys did that episode, but I've been looking through U.S. night vision specifically, trying to build an idea of what I'm looking for. And, you guys remember the COVID stimulus and all that? Well, I figured since the government's printing money, I was going to spend my COVID stimulus on something that would upset the government. So I went with body armor and a helmet. But it's been sitting there, night vision ready, for several years now. Mm-hmm. And night vision keeps going up in price, so I probably got to step on that quick.
Well, I'll just do what I did with Phil. I'll just sell you mine and I'll upgrade to panos.
I mean, yes, that could work.
I'm not hearing a lot. I'm not hearing a lot.
What you do is you sell the binos to Phil. Phil will sell me the binocular, and you can get panos.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, when we get there, we get there. But I'm in no hurry to upgrade from this mono I have. It's
I can talk about some of the binos that I have experience with. But anyway.
So one thing, Jeff Jag did say, I'm paying off the car first. I support that. I support good financial decisions, and I wholeheartedly encourage all y'all that if y'all have any kind of interest-bearing debt at a reasonable interest rate, please pay that off first before you start buying silly stuff like night vision. Yeah. However, If you have disposable income and money in an emergency fund, it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But don't be stupid and put it on a credit card, because I will shame you
Yeah.
for that publicly.
27 to 35% now. Jesus Christ.
Done at the beginning of next month. That is the way, sir.
Nice. Good man.
All right,
What are we
Andrew,
looking at?
this is yours, and I'm
Breaking my
already
brain because it's supposed to be sitting up. So
sorry. Uh, I oriented everything sideways because it fits the screen better.
it's breaking my brain because I'm like, that's not the way my safe lays,
I mean, it could be if you had a tornado, but
right? An F5 coffee. Anybody? I'm just kidding.
There you
Anyway,
go.
so what do you want me to talk about?
well,
So
talk
what
us
have you
through
got
this
there
rifle. Yeah, talk us through the rifle, and then as we talk through the rifle, I kind of want to get into like why some of these decisions were made, why some of the parts were chosen, because I know that for some of these things, you and I did things differently.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is my pistol. And so, yeah, so I mean, I guess suppressor, I don't know. I mean, if you want to go from tip to butt, like Grand Thumb,
We are not sponsored by Grand Thumb. We don't give him
no,
credit for things.
I give him credit for tip to butt though. So anyway, it's the Surefire RC2, I believe. 5.56 can. But yeah, basically, the laser on it, and that's not a very good picture at all. But the laser on it is the designate IRV from Night Vision, U.S. Night Vision rather, and it's the IR slash green visible with the illuminator all built in. I'll bring that. I'll be bringing this to Prepper Camp because I know you got that Hollow Sun one. Be kind of curious to see them side by side.
It'll blow
So
it out of the water.
probably, but yeah. So I'm really happy with this. Again, this is a terrible freaking a picture of it. I should have did a better one. But the what I love about it is, and I haven't played too much with it. I haven't really played too much with it. But as of right now, with the because it's a 10.5-inch barrel. It's like a roughly about, I think it's like a 10-inch or so rail. With the way it sits right now, where I place my thumb naturally, the way they built these is so that button you'll see at the very top. So you'll see where the screw where it mounts to the rail, just to up to the top and to the right of it is the button to activate it. And where that is at, and the way they built it, and when I was talking to Duncan and stuff, is it basically it's just a natural it's nice and it kind of slopes down so that you can actually place your thumb right on top of it, and it's a good resting point for a thumb, so you almost don't need a pressure pad to add an additional pressure pad for the laser, which is really really nice. I really like it from the little bit that I have played with it so far. That's what I really like about that. So yeah, and it sits really low profile. Again, that's what I like too, is it sits super low profile. So even if you had a lower mount, so like that is the Hollow Sun. I believe it's the Hollow Sun 503 red dot. And it's on a ScalarWorks 1.93-inch mount, so it actually puts it up pretty high. If you had that a little bit lower, it's nice because it would not like it would completely clear. What I like about this is when I had this a scope on this rifle. Actually, no, not the scope. I had this on. I put the laser on a scoped rifle that was a 16-inch rifle. Like usually with the Steiner D ball that I have, it actually you could see this top of the Steiner D ball in the scope. This like you could barely see, like it pretty much cleared it. Like the scope cleared it. It was no issues and no occlusion or nothing. So that's what I really enjoy with that. I did have a flashlight on it, but because when we get to my Scorpion, I swapped the flashlight over to that because it's a vampire light. And this having the illuminator, I figured, screw it. I can kind of go away from the IR light to where I'm probably going to put just a white light on it for right now. So I have a Streamlight 1000X that I probably will just throw on there for right now and call it good. But yeah, that's my rifle, the rifle setup.
So Raggle Fraggle asked Surefire Can. You said earlier it was an RC2.
Yeah, I believe it's the RC2. I'm pretty sure it's the RC2, but it is a Surefire 5.56.
So is that
All
red
right.
dot night vision compatible then? Can you
Yeah.
use that?
Yeah, so what I like about the Hollow Sun is it goes down super freaking low to where you can't see it the naked eye, but yeah, you can definitely pick it up with night vision.
Okay.
What I like about it is it is like Hollow Sun. What the thing I like about them too is the fact that if you go down all the way, you crank it down all the way and you crank it back up, or vice versa, one of the two, you can either go to a circle and a dot or just a dot.
Mm.
And some of them actually, I think they have some of them that are just the circle too. But what I like, so if anybody doesn't know, the PVS 14 that Phil has, I sold him that to upgrade to duals when we get there.
Much
Uh,
appreciated.
but what I liked about that, so when I had this all set up and I would shoot passive, so basically I would bring this up and I could actually shoot with both eyes open, and I could look through the dot and I could look through my night vision at the same time, and it would my brain would merge the image together, especially with like pitch dark, when it's super dark out, especially like in the woods and stuff like that. My brain would merge it, so I would see the white phosphor image, and then it would be I'd have the red dot in the center. And so that's what I really liked about the PVS 14 and doing this. So and yeah, again though, and when you have it up high enough to where you can see it with your naked eye, I mean, yeah, it does get bright in your night vision, but you got to think, if you got to shoot, if you have to shoot with or without night vision, you got to have it set to a brightness that you can see with the naked eye as well. But to me, it worked out great. I love this Hollow Sun. I hate that it's China, but Hollow Sun makes some solid freaking products. And this dot I've had for, I don't even know how many years I've had it, and I've bumped it around, smacked it. It's been dropped, kicked, all kinds of stuff on grass, gravel, knocked off rocks, and it's kept like zero solid. And I've never changed it. I've never swapped it out. It's been a solid red dot.
Yeah, and then contrasting that to my AR. So this is like the same. This upper lower used to be my 10.5-inch pistol a long time ago. I tore it all apart, salvaged the parts, and rebuilt it as a 16-inch carbine. So it's a 16.25-inch, I think, Faxon barrel, no suppressor, because I haven't made that jump yet. I'm probably going to end up getting a 12 gauge before I get into suppressors. But on the front end of it, I have an Arisaka Defense light body with a Malkov white light head, which is 100 times better as hard in terms of like output and focus and everything than the Streamlights I used to use. And a Holosun LS321, which is like probably, I mean, so when I bought the LS321, I don't think the DIRVs were out, or they had probably just come out. And the problem is that with night vision lasers, there's always been this kind of built-in problem where with traditional non-VCSEL illuminator technology, the only way to have something that was acceptable to the FDA to sell to civilians meant you had to knock the output down a ton. And that is what is in this L321 is the older IR illuminator technology. So Andrew's DIRV will blow this thing out of the water in terms of illuminator power, in terms of range, in terms of all that. Not even going to debate any of that. But what this thing does is it gives you a street price of $650 to $700 brand new, which compares very favorably to $1,500 to $2,000 for the street price of some of the full power lasers that are out there. And until things like really until the DRV came out, there wasn't anything sub $2,000 that had the performance it did. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, call this a budget laser illuminator. It is, but I can tell you that at inside the house and across the yard ranges, this thing works perfectly fine. And I've got both of them driven off of an Axon switch because, again, with a 16-inch barrel, with a 14-inch rail, to get the laser far enough down the rail and the light far enough down the rail to not have incredible shadow from the barrel, I had to push them all the way out, and that meant it was just a little bit too far to be a comfortable reach. So I have a switch in there, which I can actuate the light or the laser. But I did make the point based on Andrew's experience, because Andrew, you had I think one of your earlier night vision setups, you ran a Surefire light with one of the UE end caps, right? It was a plug compatible tail
Oh,
cap, but you didn't have the extra switch on the back of it.
so I no, I so it was a Streamlight. It was a Streamlight
That's
1000
right.
XL, and then I basically, because I wanted to run just a single pad, I did some conversion stuff. You can buy the conversion kits for it to convert it to the was it the plug,
The
the
Surefire tail caps.
Surefire tail caps and stuff like that. And I was actually running it in a class, and it completely crapped the bed on me. It completely quit working on me 100% altogether. And so I ditched that, went back to just a clicky tail cap, and Bob's your uncle, I guess. So
Yeah. So what I did that was different than you, and it was based on your experience, was first of all, instead of trying to adapt a Streamlight light, I just went for the air socket defense body, which is already Surefire compatible. I put on that a DS00 tail cap, which has the plug. It has the Surefire plug, but it also has a little bitty switch on the side of it. So I don't know how visible that is, but next to that plug coming out of the back of that light is a little bitty push button that you can use to actuate the light if the switch goes down or if the wires rip out of it.
well,
So I have access to that light even if the switch goes down or the plug backs out or any of that foolishness. I can reach a couple inches further forward and kind of stretch myself out to get to the fire button on top of the laser if the switch goes bad. Like that was all based on your experience of the switch makes things nicer. It's exactly where my thumb naturally wants to fall. It's better for ergonomics. It's better for reach. But I still have the ability to kind of torque myself forward and reach those manual switches in a pinch.
so that switch, is that a momentary on, or is it click on, click off?
So the laser is momentary only. The light is click on, click off, or momentary if you just don't push it down all the way. Very
Okay.
similar to the clicky tail switches that come on Surefires.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that's one reason why I be careful. Be careful with the switches that you get, and this goes for everybody. And this is what I've learned, and this is what I learned. I learned this the hard way as well when I did a low light class, a low light long gun with Trek and the MDFI. The pressure pads are awesome. They make things great, especially if you have a longer rail. If you want your hand placement completely different, if you want to actually make it, I like the idea of having the pad in between where my hand rests, where my thumb kind of C clamps over the rail, because then I can clamp, I can basically hold the rifle down. If I need light, I can just move my thumb back just a little bit and I can hit the light. However, if you have a momentary on, that pad gets very heavy or hard to push down when you're holding it down for 10 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute. That it gets pretty, you can feel it in your thumb. And that's one of the exercises that we did in the class on low light, was utilizing, if you have a pistol without a light, or if you have a pistol and the light dies on it, using your rifle light, and say something happened and your rifle's down as well, and you're relying on your pistol, and you don't have a light on your pistol or whatever, we were doing a drill that you basically were using your rifle light, and then you're shooting with your pistol. So you had your rifle tucked, you were basically pushing the pressure pad down, and holy crap, like it felt like it was like you could definitely feel how heavy that pressure pad got, and my thumb got fatigued like that. That's the last time I used that pressure pad. I went back to a click. If the pressure pad that's on my Scorpion, it's clicky. Like that's what I like about it. So
Yeah, that is the thing I do appreciate about the Accent, is that the switch for the light does have a constant on position. So like The only thing about this whole setup that ever gave me any pause, and it's the reason why on the very end of that light you can see, it escapes me for the moment what the company is that popularized those. It's the little cover for your light. I got that for
Oh,
two reasons.
yeah.
Huh?
No, I
Well,
no, I go ahead.
I got it for two reasons. First of all, because I have a full size Surefire X300 on my CZ, and I have to clean the lens off of that SOB every single time it goes to the range because it gets so much carbon caked onto the front of it because it sticks out past the barrel. And I could just, the minute I mounted all this up, I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, that flashlight is going to look like crap in about 5 seconds after I put a couple of mags through it. So it does that, but it's also there to keep me from ending with the light if I'm working with night vision. And it's super
100%.
quick to pop off if I need to activate the light. But it's just like it's like a safety on your rifle just to like give you that extra little. We all know you should keep your finger off the trigger, but just in case your finger and your brain come disconnected, it's nice to have a backup. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100 Concepts is the company.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I highly like I don't have it on mine yet, but it's something that I want to add because it's definitely especially when I get to my helmet, I definitely will show you guys what I'm talking about. So,
All right. Well, Nick, you have any questions before we slide forward? I mean, I've got the same red dot magnifier setup I've had on this thing for the longest time. It's just a cheap primary arms red dot, but
Sure. There's
I
nothing
haven't
wrong
had
with that.
any.
They work.
Well, and I haven't had any real problems using it with night vision. Although, unlike Andrew, I tried to do this the way Andrew's described, where he puts his night vision on his non-dominant eye and then uses his dominant eye to look through the red dot.
Right.
And I can't make my brain work those two things together. Like
That'll be interesting to try.
yeah, I think I like I know I'm right eye dominant and right-handed, and I know all that, but for some reason when I put the night vision monocle on my left eye, my brain turns that left eye off, and all I see is this little red dot in this field of black. I cannot make my brain put the two images together.
So
I
I
just
suppose
run.
my I got one question for you, Phil. How many rounds have you run through this rifle with that tape switch on there? And have you ever had that tape switch either come unscrewed, come off the gun, fail to work?
I mean, maybe only about 5-6 mags at this point since I
Okay.
mounted all this up. I don't anticipate having problems with it just because there is a gratuitous amount of blue red dot or a blue Loctite
Sure.
on a lot of things.
Okay, but I hate to be that guy, but every other item you add adds a point of failure, right?
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I have seen at work. Granted, this is not under nods, but there'll be a control hanging off of a machine, and there's a thin little wire that connects that control panel to the machine. And for whatever reason, that wire catches on goddamn everything that walks past that machine. Your belt, a cart, the forklift, whatever. I can only imagine, like, it looks like your wires are pretty tight in this image here. I can't really see that well, but I can only imagine it would be fairly easy to snag and break one of those wires. I suppose my concern is, my question is, do you think you have any concern that failing you, say in a high stress environment?
So that's something I didn't point out actually, is that it's very difficult to see, but if you look directly underneath that switch, it looks like there's two square pads on the side of the rail directly underneath that switch.
Yeah.
So what I got Magpul makes these little bitty square plastic doodads. I mean, it's Magpul. They do everything in plastic. And it clips into an M-lock slot, and it just has slots cut out of the bottom, the underside of it to secure wires.
Oh, okay.
So I've
there's
got
nothing
two.
loose.
So I've got two on each side of the rifle, and I've got the wires that go in through the front, go all the way through, loop around, and come back out the front. And it's like that on both sides. So there's really not a lot of slack in the wires. And if you pulled on the side of the wire that does not go to the light and the laser, you're going to be pulling on, I mean, it pins the wires in there very, very tightly. So the only way you could pull those plugs out is if you happen to catch the correct side of the wire to pull the wire out of the back of the light or the laser. Raggle Fraggle said zip ties. I use zip ties to secure all the wires for all my lights on every weapon before I ever got these things.
Sure.
Because a pack of the little bitty tiny zip ties cost nothing, and who cares? You know, it's like $5
Exactly.
for
Sure.
it's like $5 for 1,000, and you just use a pair of dikes to cut them off whenever you want to move stuff around. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just have concerns about, I've shot stuff loose off my guns before.
I have two.
Before Illinois did their assault weapon ban, I ran a lot of pistol carbine courses, and a lot of those courses were 400 to 600 round courses of fire. And despite blue Loctite, despite locking washers and stuff like that, I have shaken sights off. I have shaken my buttstock loose, even though it was staked. I shook my pistol grip loose the one day. I mean, I realize that you do what you can, right? And I'm just wondering if, from a long-term reliability standpoint, if the tape switch is the way to go over just the tail cap on the leg. I'm interested to see what your long-term results are.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But the two things I'm going to say in response to that is that if you have any fasteners that screw and unscrew on any of your firearms, it'd be a really smart idea to check them every single time you go to the range. Look, the reason I clean my firearms after a range day has nothing to do with vanity, and has nothing to do with the fact that guns don't work if they have one speck of carbon in them. That's nonsense. I clean them every single time because that is an opportunity to inspect my weapon and make sure nothing is loose that should not be loose and nothing is tight that should not be tight. It's
That's
an
a good point.
inspection point. And I take the time to, because I mean all my tools for working on guns are right there on the workbench. So I take the time to like just check them all. And the one time I didn't was actually with the previous light I had on this rifle, my Streamlight, and that tail cap backed off from just a couple
Oh,
of range days. And I didn't realize this until I put the firearm back together and I'm doing function checks on it, and I just happened to hit the tape switch and it did not work. The light would not come on. And then as I'm, tweaking on stuff, I'm wiggling the wire and it lights up. And it was because I put just enough pressure on the tail cap to make the connection. So I screwed that stupid thing in about a half turn and never had a problem with it after that. But it
Oh,
reinforced in my brain, check your freaking firearms, check your
yep.
stuff. And the other thing of it is that I did make a point of having the tail cap on the light that has the auxiliary switch, and I can reach the switch on the laser. So
True.
the switch on this thing makes things work nicer for me, but I also train to be able to use without it,
That makes sense.
because why wouldn't you? It's right there. There's an old saying in the military that if you plan for things to go wrong, you're never surprised when they do. It has some validity to it.
It does.
so I mean, Nick, if you remember from our shotgun class with the MDFI
Yep.
crew, I mean,
Yep.
you go through your rifle every single time if you pick it up, or Phil, you do it when you clean after a range trip or whatever it is. You I. It doesn't hurt to take your rifle out of the safe every once in a while. If you do some dry fire drills, do whatever with it, and then you and you inspect all your stuff from tip to butt. Go down and you make sure things are tight and torqued down as they should be. Make sure, and that's where witness marks come from. I know, Phil, I see you don't have any witness marks on your stuff. If I have witness marks on a bunch of my stuff, and if that's what those are for, is you have the witness marks so that if the screws are coming loose, you're going to see that turn. So that's
Mhm.
another, that's something, reason. I've never really had anything pop loose on my rifle. Shotgun, I almost lost my light and my red dot the first time I did the class. The second time with you, Nick, I was actually very happy where I torqued everything
Yeah.
down. I retorqued stuff down, and I mean it never came loose. So I was really
We
happy
didn't
with
have any yard sales at that class, did we?
no, it was really interesting. But the other thing I want to address too before we move on from to Raggle Fraggle is I nothing on my personal stuff right now because I took it off because I'm redoing a bunch of stuff. But Coban, it's sticky. I like it just because it's sticky. When you grab it, that you're right there at where you want to be. Yeah, it does collect dirt and grime and stuff like that, but it's cheap. and it self adheres to it, to itself. And so I'll zip tie a couple things here and there, and then on top of that, you have the zip tie. When you cut it, it can be kind of sharp on the one edge if you don't tuck it in properly. But to stop that, I use Coban, and I will wrap Coban around around everything, around the wires and everything, to give some added protection. And then also,
that's a great idea.
Or Ranger bands, just
Yeah.
like the big thick heavy duty rubber bands. Same concept, but I mean, no matter
The-
how you choose to do it, please for God's sakes don't leave your wires lying
the
around
thing
loose.
about Ranger bands is don't spend your money on actual Ranger bands.
No.
Go buy a bicycle tube and just and cut it up into strips.
Yes.
Well, that's what the original ones were anyway.
So
yeah,
but
I mean that's the part that cracks me up is that if you look at pre GWatt, pre tactical days, the actual door kickers and pipe hitters of the world were using zip ties and duct tape to put stuff on their rifles, and it worked. So that's why I'm always like, look, if special operations got away with it in the 90s, it's probably okay for me to LARP with my friends today. Just saying. Yeah. I mean, in some circles, you could call that a clone correct build and get bonus points from all the other autists.
Truth.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew already advanced this, and I advanced it again, and he sabotaged my ass again. Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. No, so this is my Scorpion. It's the Scorpion 3 Plus that I picked up. There's a lot of configuration going on here. I'm completely changing out. Like this actually, hopefully, I was hoping by Prepper Camp it would be different, but it's probably going to have to stick like this for another couple months. But I have the Aimpoint Acro red dot on top with an Arasaka mount. And then I have my Steiner D-ball, that the A2 that I have on top. Currently, I'm working with a friend of mine who's he owns a machine shop. We're actually working on our own mount. So because the Scorpion has such limited rail space, I like the idea of the red dot, and then with like a beaver tail that comes out, so that you can mount like a something on top of that, like a laser or something on top of that to free up some of that space. So that's something that him and I are kind of working on right now. So hopefully that'll come. Hopefully we'll get that down the road. But unfortunately, this is how this is probably going to look. I might actually remove it. I don't know yet. The pressure pad is going to definitely, it's kind of something that I've been messing with. The only thing I really don't like about it, and I like because of the limited rail space, I like the light on the right-hand side, not on the left. But the thing about the right-hand side is where it's at, you can see where the cable's at. It's blocking the ejection port. So I'm going to have some malfunction. So that's why I'm messing around right now with different, I'm looking around for different cables, some different cable management, or just not use a cable or a pressure pad. And then that pressure pad on top of that, that's not going to stay there. I just found, I forgot I had them. I just found Mod Light, the little small Mod Light pressure pad that I forgot I had. So I'll probably end up putting that somewhere. But that's the suppressor I just got. That is the rugged Obsidian 45 is what I just picked up. So I have it converted to where actually that's a shortened version. So it actually has like another 2 inches that you can put at the end of it and extend it out a little bit more to make it quieter. Adds a few more baffles, but it's got the converted. It's a 3-prong adapter to connect to the pistol or to the Scorpion, and then obviously the pistol brace that it will come out, extend out a little bit. So that D-ball, that's my old laser. So that is actually the A2. So that is a green laser, green visible, and an IR laser. So there's no illuminator. That's why I put the Surefire Vampire on there to give me some illumination at night. Like I said, that it's kind of subject. This is where it's at currently. Is it going to stay is it going to stay like this? Probably not. I don't see it staying like in this configuration for very much longer, but this is the current configuration that I've been messing around with.
So questions, Nick, or?
Well, as much as I like the idea of the Scorpion, I've never been a fan of pistol calibers for self-defense in a larger platform like that. Personal preference. If I'm going to be carrying something bigger than a handgun, I'm probably going to be using a full-size rifle or now a shotgun, simply because everything I've ever researched has always said that pistols and pistol caliber just sucks at doing the job you want it to do. It does. Now, given that you got a suppressor on it in a home defense situation, I could see that being fantastic, especially paired with your night vision. I've got similar concerns. You've got you mentioned the wires in front of the ejection port. I mean, hot brass. I'm not sure how hot the brass gets coming out of this gun. Do you have any idea? Is it hot enough to burn you, like out of a 5.56, or is it fairly
I mean,
cold?
it's just I mean, if you're shooting a pistol, it pops out and it'll make you say "ow." So
It'll give you a first degree burn
So-
if it stays on you long enough.
So then I suppose my concern is where you have the wires there, you're probably going to get some damage to the wiring
Well, that's
from
what
the
I said.
cases.
It's not going to stay like this. This is
Right,
for-
exactly. I'm just saying in the short term, that's my only real concern,
Yeah,
other than my standing concern about loose wires. I mean, I
No, this I have not shot it like this at all.
oh okay.
And I do not intend to shoot it like this.
Okay.
This was me concepting it out, and Phil's
Sure.
like, "Hey, we're doing this. We're going to do this episode, and this is the current configuration that I'm messing with."
Sure.
And so this is not going to stay like this. I have not shot it like this at all, and I will not shoot it this way.
I mean, it looks like it'll be a hell of a lot of fun to shoot. I mean, for sure, it's going to be a riot of a good time. I really do like what I see from the Scorpions and what little I have seen of them. We don't see a lot of them here where I'm at because,
Reasons.
we get no fun here apparently. Can you use that Holosun? With as short as the rail is, I noticed on your guys' other optics, your guys' rifles, you had the optics way further forward. Can you actually shoulder that and see through your red dot with your night vision on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as it is right now, no, because it's collapsed all the way.
Okay.
Once
with the brace extended.
Yeah, with the brace extended all the way. Yeah, I can look through the red dot, and I can see the red dot just fine with my night vision.
Okay. Well, because I know that I don't know how I've never actually handled night vision in person, but just looking at it compared to the size of helmets, they're sticking like 4 to 5 inches out in front of your face.
About that.
So I was just thinking that might get in the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is like, and what's not so the thing with night vision and and maybe I'm wrong. If anybody knows more than I do, please share because I'm not anywhere a pro. But with the night vision, especially when I'm shooting night vision, like a lot of times a rifle, sometimes you might choke up on the rifle when you pull into your shoulder. Your head will might crane in a little bit. The one thing that I've been going to with almost all of my rifles, and even like this here, is the higher mount. So I like the 193 mounts where it actually puts the red dot high in the center line and everything, because I found that as I come up, I don't the more practice I've gotten and I've trained myself out of it is my neck stays in line, and keeping my neck up, my head up, and keep until where I just bring the rifle up and it's actually higher, is I found that I can actually keep I'm not tucking my head in, and so I can actually keep the goggles away from the red dot, so that actually you're actually more sitting straight up when you're pulling the gun up.
Yeah, because I definitely have my head down forward when I'm mounting a rifle.
Yeah, well, and it turns into a geometry problem, because think of it like this.
Right.
If this is your head and this is your eyeball, and you rock your head forward, but then you crane your eye up, you can do that to lower your eye relative to the position of like your top vertebrae, right?
Sure, yeah.
The problem is when you're doing that with night vision and you turn your head down, not only does your eyepiece go down much further because it's gimbal forward. Again, it's like a triangle. It's a math problem. It's a geometry problem. Not only that, but now it's not in line with your red dot, so you can't see what you're doing. So the only way to lower your eyeball is to scrunch your neck down or raise the red dot up. So I mean,
sure.
I've heard people argue that like high mounts for red dots aren't necessary for night vision, but I'm going to tell you that it helps things dramatically
Okay.
because it's not as simple as just scrunch your head down like you're a human turtle and get your chin closer to the rail. So this is mine, and I have done probably something that a lot of people are going to twist their head up about. That is a TLR VIR2, which is a pistol white light that has an IR laser, IR illuminator built into it. And it is positioned on the bottom rail of that Scorpion because I've got all that set up to where that, like the tail switches on that light fall right where my index finger wants to be. So from a firing grip, I have full control over the weapon. I can actuate the light. I can actuate either the white light if I'm set to white light, or the IR illuminator and laser. It's a big floody illuminator. It's really only good like across a yard or in a house, but the laser is bright enough. I mean, Andrew, I had this at prepper camp last year, and it was enough to illuminate the treetops where we were. I see Raggle Fraggle saying I don't understand the 20 round mag. So for context, this is among a small batch of dedicated home defense firearms that are in a hidden safe. And the smaller I can make this firearm, the better chance I have of fitting into that safe. So 20 round magazine is what stays loaded in it when it's in the safe, because for space constraints, I've got two 30 round magazines sitting on a shelf right by it. So if I need a bigger magazine, it's nothing to drop this one and stick in a bigger one. I've got two spares, and I got two more spares in the bedroom. But that's also the reason why.
Is no joke, though.
Well, it's 20 rounds of not lightly loaded 9mm. But that's also the reason why this pistol light is where it is. Because if I had mounted it on the sides or on the top of this weapon, it would not have fit as well into the very small, tight space it has to fit into. And putting it where it is now keeps the lateral profile of the weapon narrower versus having something on the sides. So this was kind of a study in compromises to make it fit into a very small space. This is a home defense firearm, but it's also the weapon I take on trips a lot of times, because I came to this way of thinking years ago that if I was going to pack firearms on a trip and I was going to pack anything more than just, a handgun and a couple extra mags and a little bit of extra ammo, it would be really helpful if all the firearms all ate the same round. So if I pack my carry gun, my wife's carry gun, and this, then I can bring an extra 200 rounds of 9mm and it feeds all three firearms. So that's kind of the rationale. I will wholeheartely admit you're never going to see 9mm swing for the fences like 5.56 will, but I will say that if you would be comfortable fighting your way out of trouble with a 9mm handgun, this thing's going to have more velocity and better ballistics than that will. So,
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody would always love to have a bigger caliber, and sure, but concealed carry requires concealed, and it gets awful hard to conceal a full-size 12 gauge after a while.
Yes, and that's the other thing. With the pistol brace on this thing folded, I have concealed this under a jacket.
Oh, I believe it. Well, they used to conceal MP5s and long-barreled Uzis.
Tommy guns. Why do you think so many gangsters didn't put stocks on them?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be that accurate when you're just spraying and praying.
Well, for sure. Looking at this one here, I gotta say, I like the slimmer profile on it. I don't see any reason to go to a bigger light than a pistol light, and here's why. Your effective range is still probably 75 to 150 yards.
Whatever you're going to do with a 9mm.
Right. I mean, yes, Jerry Michalek can probably hit at 1,000 yards on a paper plate with a 9mm, whatever. I'm not him. Neither are the rest of you. If you are, congratulations. Why are you not on TV? But that weapon mounted light, I mean, for a home defense gun, a pistol light like that is going to be more than capable in home distances. It's going to be more than capable in hotel distances. It's going to be more than capable at a campsite. You're not looking across a 300 or 400 yard open field trying to identify friend from foe with your white light.
Yeah. And I can tell you from having run drills with this thing, if I put a 20 round magazine in this thing and say a 21 round magazine in my CZP09, I can get 20 rounds on target a lot faster with this than I can with the PO9.
3 points of contact versus 2.
3 points of contact. It weighs more. It's got a longer barrel. This is more accurate than the CCPO9.
Oh, undoubtedly.
And it has a phenomenally better trigger. The Timney V2 that's in this thing, highly recommend for the Scorpion guys. It is a beautiful trigger compared to the bucket of BS that CZ put in these things from the factory. But so Andrew, I don't know if you want me to drop this because we've been going you, then me, then you, then me, and you have 10 minutes and then you have to leave, and I don't want to screw you over.
I don't.
So do you want me to drop this? You pick up your helmet?
I mean, if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. That way, if we ramble on too far, you know.
So this is my helmet. Camera.
Make Andrew big.
Hang on a second. I'm working on it. There
There
we
he
go.
is.
Andrew's big now.
This is my helmet.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Yep. So basically, I'll get it from all angles. So there's that, the light, back, inside, nothing special. So anyway, all right. How do you get all three of us again? There we go.
There.
I don't like my so big. Anyway, so basically my helmet, I went with the Team Windy bump helmet. And then so Team Windy bump helmet, it's got the Rhino mount, just a standard Rhino mount. I'd like to get a nicer Wilcox one that folds down closer to the helmet, but this one is doing just fine for right now. But these are the BNVD 1431s, the MK2 dual tube articulated night vision. So white phosphorus, of course. I've looked at green and I'll never go green. It's crazy the difference of the less eye strain and everything that I really could tell. These are, so I do not have a manual gain on mine. Mine are auto gain. So basically what that means is as I walk from a light area to a dark area, like your PVS 14s are a manual gain. So you actually got to turn that up if you go into a darker place. And what that does is that actually it's allowing more light and everything. Like it's like pushing out like it's basically, how do I say it? It's basically for the less light you have, you adjust the gain to where it actually. But the downside of it is it actually makes it more grainy. You get more of a grainy picture if you're in that situation. That's where like an IR floodlight comes in handy, or you can have extra bounce, which is nice. So these dual tube. Like I said, white phosphorus. The nice thing is the 1431s, because the PBS or the PBS 31s are like the articulated ones that you see. These ones, the 1431s, basically the PBS 14. These are based off of PBS 14 technology and the base 14 tubes. But then they just utilize a 31, like basically the 31 technology as far as the bridge goes, the on and off, and then they articulate and how they articulate up. So that's what I really like, because if you want to make me large again, what I like about these.
Hold up. I have to make Andrew large. Give me a second. There we go.
What I like about these is if I can actually run them down just like this. Where's my camera? There it is. So I can run them down just like this. And then if I want, I can actually put one down and I can look through that side, or I can do both sides just like that. But what I like about it is if I need to go into a room, or when I was doing like a night vision class and we were like, okay, nods up, or, hey, we're actually, I need to shoot maybe passive I want to shoot passive and I don't need my night vision. I can actually fold these up just like that. And I can actually look underneath. And yeah, you have some of this that is kind of annoying. You kind of get used to it, but I can look underneath here and I can have a clear line of sight. So that's the one thing I really like about these ones. I have the Ear Pro mounted as a Sword-In. It's the Sword-In, the Supreme Pro X, and then they're connected by like the Mark Ear Pro connectors. Like basically they're the ones that you see standardized that fold up. I kind of like them. I actually need to clip them, make them a little bit shorter. I was thinking about actually going to like the Ops Core. that they actually just pop out. And so instead of these, but yeah, I mean, so far they're actually doing pretty good. Top of my helmet is it's a TNVC Mohawk. And then that's got extra batteries and some weights. The two lights on the top and the back, those are just knockoff lights off Amazon. They do pretty well. One is green, one is red, and then I got the Enforce weapon mounted light on the side, and that is a white /IR, and you can flip it back and forth. The one thing I like about, especially like that true the 100, was it the 100 concepts, the
Mhm.
light that you have, the shield, is every once in a while I'll forget which I need to figure out something, maybe like to put a dimple or put something on the white light side to where when I'm feeling for it, I can feel like the indicator that it's on white, because there's been a few times where I've hit the light and it's on white and it shines out a white light and I have to quickly like shut it off or flip it over. So um but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it as far as my night vision setup goes. I love the dual tubes. The reason I wanted to go from single to dual is I really like the PVS 14, but having both eyes covered really helped with my depth perception and actually driving. I may or may not have driven with these on before, and
In
so
Mexico.
yeah, and
We all
so
have
that
lawnmowers.
yeah, right. So I really like, so driving, just generally walking. I didn't do too bad with the PVS 14, but I noticed, like, because I always kept it over my left eye, and I noticed my right eye was like, what am I doing? So everything. So I see pros and cons to both, but yeah, I really like having both eyes covered to see through. I mean, you get the same field of view really, unless you have like the panel bridge or these. I mean, these I can kind of separate out a little bit. They do have some articulation to where you can actually pan that out, so you can kind of pan it out to where it's not going to be 100% like a 40-degree field of view, just like a PVS 14. But yeah, I mean, I really like it. The only thing I might change, like I said, I might do like a Wilcox mount that it'll bring basically all that'll do is really it'll bring the night vision closer when it's mounted, and they're adjustable. Like they have a little bit finer adjustments, which I like. But and then some of like the Wilcox, the newer one, is a breakaway, which is nice. So if you get your nods snagged on something, it'll break away, so it won't snap your neck or break your helmet or break your nods, if anything. Then the other thing I might change is I think I might put a vampire light, Surefire vampire pistol light on the side. Or I thought about the other thing too is, what is it? Thyrum, I think, is the company. They make an articulating mount that actually will mount. I can put the light on and I can actually move it, and so you can push it up. And so you can actually adjust it. You can adjust the light how you want, and then you can aim it up. And what's good with that, what I like about that is if you aim it up and you actually can use that weapon light, or you can use the light on your helmet to use as a spill light. So if you are IR or white, if you're going into a room and you don't want a direct beam just beaming in, you can actually aim it up. It'll bounce off the ceiling, bounce off the walls, or do whatever, and it'll actually give you some good illumination in a room. So, but yeah, I mean, that's my helmet setup. Yeah, I love it. I've been really happy with it. And then I think the helmet cover, I'm trying to remember where I got the helmet cover at, where,
Team
because you and I,
Wendy.
yeah, team, okay, yeah, it was Team Windy, and they actually were discontinuing these, and because they were super on sale, which was nice.
Yeah, I
But no,
remember when I saw it, I was like, "Hey, dude, if you ever want to get one, now's the time."
yeah, yeah, I'm really happy with the helmet. I really wish I had more places to shoot under night vision and or classes. I would love to take more classes. I've taken one good one really well taught class, and I'd like to take more. But yeah, no, it was good. So
All right, Andrew, I don't want to chase you out here, but you did say you had to bug out right now.
yeah, I got to bounce.
Yeah, we
So
can close it out.
yeah. So anyway, that's it. If anybody has any questions about what I got or suggestions or whatnot, hit me up. Love to hear it. But But yeah, so no, thanks everybody, and thanks guys for this was a fun show. So
Glad you could join us, man. I'll see you in a week.
yeah, for sure. See you guys
Later.
Later, man.
And now that we got rid of him, we can talk shit about him.
Right? No. I did notice he did say he went with a bump helmet. Phil, is yours bump or is yours ballistic?
Same Team Wendy bump helmet. And I understand that there are those out there that are not going to like that decision, but I'm going to be honest with you. The likelihood that I am going to use this in a two-way kinetic range are low enough that I would rather save a couple pounds and several $100s and not get a ballistic. I have other things to deal with before I think about getting a ballistic helmet.
No, I get that. I was just curious. I went with a ballistic helmet only because the government was paying for it and I didn't have to sign a 4-year contract to get it.
Perfect. Perfect.
So
yeah,
I figured that was a funner choice.
Yeah. So I have the same Team Wendy. Think they call it their XTP or whatever. It's the Team Wendy bump helmet. There's a reason why they're so freaking popular. They're comfortable as hell. They come with okay helmet pads, not great, but okay.
Oh, man, you got to try these. These things. Memory foam, cooling gel memory foam.
I've actually heard that hardhead veterans, their whatever they call it, their lattice, it's like almost like a polymer mesh helmet pad. I hear those are really nice, but I also hear really good things about 4D Tacticals pads, which I haven't tried.
They're removable and washable.
Yeah, the helmet pads are the one thing that I don't want to say Team Wendy lets you down. I just think there may be better options out there, and that's something I'm probably going to play with in the future, but this works.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't say they don't. I mean, I know a lot of guys that heavily use those in Milsim Airsoft, and everybody likes to shit on Milsim Airsoft, but let's be honest, those guys use their gear a lot more than most of us.
I'm gonna tell you that most of the serious Milsim Airsoft guys could put a whole lot of people to shame.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm not going to say that that's like my endorsement to go do that instead of getting a legitimate training class, but I'm just going to say if you want to know if your shit's going to work or not, go hand it to an airsofter and let him bang it up against trees for a couple of days with his idiot friends, and you'll find out really fast.
Yeah, but good luck going force on force with live rounds with two teams. I mean, you can do that with airsoft all day long, but you get in a whole lot of felonies if you start doing that with rifles.
But I guess what I mean is if you want to test stuff like, boots, uniforms, helmets, LBE, chest rigs, it's going to fall apart or it's not going to fall apart really quickly.
For sure. Raggle had a question on your ear pro on here.
Yeah, I'm going to work my way around to that because he's kind of right and kind of wrong. It's not different, but it is. So what I have on here is I have the Team Wendy bump. I'm using a PVS 14 on a Wilcox G11 mount. I actually switched the J arm, and I'm so drawing a blank on what it is right now, but it's an aftermarket aluminum J arm that actually uses the bayonet mount. I really didn't want to have to like fart around with, because I got the Wilcox G11 thrown in on the deal from Andrew,
right?
And to convert to a dovetail mount would have been that cost on top of everything else. And the cost for this aftermarket aluminum J-arm that actually fits really, really nice compared to the plastic ones was reasonable enough that it seemed like a good middle-of-the-road option. And I really haven't been upset about it so far. So all that seems to be working well. I do have a set of Peltor mounts and a Unity Remora. That's what's in that far right picture. That's what's mounting that light above the Peltor mount. So it gives me 180 degrees of swivel, so I can point the light up at the sky, I can point down the ground, or point it wherever I want it. And that light is drawing a blank. Hang on, I should have wrote all this down. I don't know why the hell I didn't take. I know better that when I'm going to drink bourbon, I have to take notes, but I completely boggled that up this time.
It's all right.
But it's white light and IR capable. It does the job. I found it to throw enough IR light that I haven't felt the need for more, put it that way.
Okay.
And I can't see myself using the white light that's helmet mounted for much. Because if you're in the dark and you turn on white light in the middle of the woods, everybody knows who you are. And they're going to aim at your head, which is bad.
Especially if it's not a ballistic helmet.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you that even if it is a ballistic helmet, the next 5 minutes of your life are going to be very interesting, even if it is a ballistic helmet.
Or very short.
Yeah, you're going to talk to Jesus. You
Oh,
might
yeah.
not stay with him for very long, but you're definitely going to have a talk with him. Put it that way.
For sure.
Yeah, Raggle Fraggle. It is not an Olight. It is a go cheap light brand, but you could put a gun to my head right now and I couldn't tell you what brand it was. But it's
That's
the
all
not
right.
it's the not Olight cheap light brand because it's basically an admin light. It doesn't have to be a Surefire.
Sure.
So now to Raggle Fraggle's point. So what's hanging off those Peltor mounts is a set of Howard Light Ear Pro. The reason it doesn't look the same from one side to the other is because the left-hand module has a little... Now, I'll be the first to admit, it came off of Amazon. It seems to be working just fine so far. When I beat it up against a couple of trees, I'll let you know how it holds up. But it's an add-on module that connects to the Howard lights, adds a microphone boom, and comes with the down lead to connect to their push to talk and plugs into a K plug.
Nice.
So that's what I use to integrate this comm setup into my GMRS radios, which would also, I mean, it's K plug, so it's also going to work with like Baofangs and Kenwoods and most of your ham radios out there except for Yaesu because they like to be different. But this was one of those things that I can't see myself running super often. But I do have another one of these setups where it's still the Howard lights like that came on the headband they usually come on with the same module that gives me the ability to have like, one-handed communications to a radio stashed in my belt. It all comes down back. This all stems from the idea that, like post Hurricane Katrina, post Hurricane Ida, when cell phones are down, there's no comms. If I have to leave my front yard, I would like to have a radio in my hand to communicate back to the house where my wife is.
For sure.
If I'm in a situation where walking around with a radio is not convenient, or if I'm operating at dark anyway, and I would have this on my head, it'd be really nice to have complete. Yes, thank you,
Enforce.
Thank you, Raggle Fraggle. It's Enforce.
Beautiful.
Which just means it's a cheap flashlight that doesn't double as a hand grenade. I don't know if that's
well, right. I mean, yes, you can't beat bricks with it, but it'll do.
I'm not going to beat bricks with my head. I have beat bricks with my head.
Oh,
my head is probably stronger.
I've absolutely run this helmet into beams, doors, bricks. The pads are very good.
I don't think that's how you're supposed to test those things, though, Nick.
Well, it wasn't on purpose. I'm tall. You can't tell from the video. I'm a little over 6 foot tall, and so me and some buddies were running some drills in his old barn, and well, one of the grain areas that we were going into is about a 8-inch step up, and it's a 5-foot doorway, and I was too dumb to duck.
How many times did you have to make that mistake? But you stopped after 3, and that's something.
No, we went to a different room.
Oh, here I am trying to give you credit. You're doing your best not to take it.
When you're trying to move fast, and you're trying to do your high speed stuff, sometimes the low speed stuff you forget about. But that's why you got to run drills.
So Raggle Fraggle asks, would you say it's as good or better than my carbon fiber hard hat? I'm going to say that
better.
But here's the thing. You're talking about I'm not sure if he's referencing my bump helmet or your ballistic helmet. Your ballistic helmet's going to take a pretty good thwack.
Oh yeah.
But
I've worn a hard hat a time or two. This is actually surprisingly heavier, yes, but more comfortable than any hard hat I've worn.
What I will say from a protection standpoint, though, okay, the bump helmet. Here's the thing. From a protection standpoint, again, like my experience is just about like that much military. I didn't do cool door kicker, special forces stuff, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. Whether or not the shell of the helmet stays intact or not is only about a fourth of the problem you're going to deal with if you bash your skull into something. The
Yep.
next problem is going to be, where does that energy go? Because if the pads don't absorb it, if the suspension doesn't absorb it, like if you just had a layer of freaking anything, titanium, up against your skull and you smash it into something, all that energy goes through the titanium into your skull, and your skull doesn't like that very much, and your brain likes it even less. So if you rack your head on something wearing a bump helmet and the pads don't have a sufficient amount of give and support, and all that energy goes into your skull, it's bad. Same
Yep.
problem with a bump helmet, same problem with a hard hat, same problem with any of those things. I mean, I don't know a ton about hard hats because I haven't worked in an industry where I wore them, but I will just kind of put that out there that, is it better? It depends on everything below the skin. No pun
Yeah.
intended whatsoever.
No, for sure. And I did pull the pads off of this before, but you get a better look at it. There's actually 2 layers of pads in this helmet. So I can get the suspension rig out of the way a little bit here. There's 2 layers of pads in this helmet. There's your removable layer, and then there's the sewn in layer. So you actually have twice as much padding depending on the size of your head. For my head, you have twice as much padding in this helmet as they originally intended. Now, it's like a closed cell, memory foam, cooling, fanciness, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
I don't know what's in the bump helmets. Is it just a normal closed cell foam?
Hold that thought.
Now, hard hats, a lot of times it's a plastic suspension system, and you really don't have much foam. You've got that plastic ring, and then you've got a kind of just like an air gap to where that plastic's mounted to the hard hat, if I remember right, last time I wore one.
So what I'm feeling is actually 2 different things. There are, I would call them comfort pads, which are very, very
Yep.
squishy, and then underneath that feels
There's
like
a higher density foam.
a much higher density foam. The high density enough that you can deform with your fingertip, but when you pull your finger away, it stays deformed for a couple of seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
And then even below that, there's another layer of high density foam. So
Okay.
I would say that the inside of the
Probably
bump
pretty
helmet, I would say it's built pretty comparable to something like a skateboarding or like a bicycle helmet, like a legit crash helmet.
An upper end bicycle helmet or skateboarding helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see the hooligans in the chat talking back and forth about. Jeff Jag said the hard hats are hard to mod into a tactical helmet. It costs just as much as buying one. I will say that I've seen fairly cheap bicycle helmets people have turned into tactical helmets with a lot of work and modifications. I'm going to tell you that I don't think I've seen one that was as well put together as just going and buying a friggin' Team Wendy bump.
Yeah, for cost to performance ratio, as far as like a time investment too, the Team Wendy bumps, they're not bad at all cost wise. And Raggle, if you're wearing hard hats on the regular, I mean, I bought a ballistic helmet because I got a check from the government that I didn't ask for and didn't want. And I thought, well, if I'm going to spend this money, I'm going to spend it on something that'll upset my state senator. So, I went with a ballistic helmet.
Always the proper response to getting free money, by the way.
Right. I mean, had I had to pay for this out of my own pocketbook and it wasn't Sugar Daddy Trump paying for it, probably would have went with a Team Wendy bump because there's nothing wrong with that. It protects your head. I do have ear pro to mount onto these. I've got a set of Peltors and the mounts, but I'm currently waiting on a second set of Peltors because I currently use my Peltors when I mow the lawn too because my lawnmower is kind of loud, and I don't really want to have to mow it in a ballistic helmet. As much as my neighbors already think I'm odd, that would probably just push it right over the top.
Perfect.
Oh, I know. It would especially, oh God, my crazy neighbor. But no, then she's really going to think that I'm with the government.
Perfect.
No, I don't need any more hassle from that lady.
Oh, Jesus in heaven. But yeah, I mean, that's just where when I start making decisions about equipment, like you have to always bear in mind that like what I'm always looking for is that there is an intersection point between I am a cheap bastard,
right,
and this works good enough to be somewhat legit. And wherever those 2 points click together is usually where I buy. And like the Team Wendy bump is, a perfectly respectable
Oh, it
helmet
is.
for very reasonable money.
It
And to
is. It's
go,
exceptionally reasonable.
yeah, exceptionally reasonable. That's a perfect description for me in a lot of ways. Perfectly exceptional, or reasonably exceptional, perfectly
Yeah,
average, something in there.
something like that.
But in any
But no,
case,
really, I mean, what are the odds I'm ever going to use this ballistic helmet for what it was intended for? Probably zero. Because first off, it's down in my kit box in the basement. Bump in the night, I'm not going to go down and get my kit box. I'm not going to be wearing this in the event of a, New Madrid fault line that makes the Mississippi run backwards for 5 days. I'm going to have too much other shit to be worrying about than to worrying about this helmet. But it's kind of cool. And I'll probably wear it to a night vision class when I get night vision. That's really about it. It was all for cool guy points.
yeah, Raggle Fraggle, feel free to send it to me. I mean, I'm sure by now you know what all of our socials are, and you can find me on any of those.
Shit.
Stay.
Facebook group. Throw it on there.
You could throw it on the Facebook group. I
Start a
am not.
discussion.
I am not usually that good about checking Facebook because Facebook is kind of a cesspool. Our group is cool, but Facebook as a whole is a cesspool.
Am I
It's not
banned from
Reddit.
Facebook currently?
It's not as bad as Reddit, but it's a cesspool. But
I'm not
anyway,
currently banned from Facebook.
time to fix that.
All right.
All
Time to
right,
go
let me.
antagonize folks.
Well, I think we covered about everything we said to cover. Like
Yeah.
the whole point of this episode was really to just like when the last time I feel like we talked about night vision, like I was still kind of getting my feet wet. I say getting my feet wet. So you have to bear in mind that the first time I played with night vision was when I was 18 years old and I was, wearing a green uniform with a patch on my shoulder, and it was a PVS 7, probably about 1500 FOM. It was green. It was not fun. And I had a half crazy staff sergeant in the passenger seat of a deuce and a half screaming at me to go faster while I learned to drive under night vision. Scariest moments of my young life up to combat. So, like, I've played with night vision before, but like the last time we talked about night vision, I was still kind of figuring out what I didn't know because night vision, like everything in the tactical community, has undergone this night and day transformation from
Oh my
pre
gosh.
GWAT to now. So Andrew had kind of like already started down that path, getting a PBS 14 and getting into it and taking classes. And I was catching up to bridge a gap between what I knew, which was antiquated, to what's current. And I feel like, this was
You're
warranted.
getting there.
Yeah, well, this was warranted because, like I told Andrew, like I don't just want to like tip to butt, grand thumb, talk about the parts that are on the rifle. And nothing, there's anything wrong with that, but I really want to talk about the why. Because a lot of times, like especially when you get into like that whole discussion about like, do you use a switch? Do you not use a switch? How do you do cable management? Like, those are all things that Andrew and I have made different decisions on based on experience. And sometimes I make decisions based on his experience because I'm like, I saw that screw him over and I don't want to be screwed just like he was. Or I start looking at things like, this works because I have a very specific set of requirements I'm trying to fulfill with this. And those requirements are not Andrew's requirements. So I'm making different decisions. I'm putting things in different places. Because at the end of the day, like what I always tell people about firearms is like many things, make it work for you. I can't tell you
Absolutely.
I can't tell you what the perfect way for you to do something is. You're the only one that can figure that out. I'm just going to give you enough ideas that hopefully you can say this works, this doesn't, and you piece together your own plan. But the minute you start copying somebody else's stuff without asking if it works in your application, the minute you do that, you're on the wrong path, in my opinion.
Yeah. And really, I think one thing I've always done, fortunately, I learned this from other people's experience. When I make a change to a firearm that I own, I make one change. If it's the position of my buttstock, it is one change, one small change, so that you don't get to the point where you've made 4 or 5 changes and then you make a range trip and you hate it, but you don't know why you hate it. Okay, you change your buttstock, you don't like it, you go back, you sell the other one. You change your pistol grip, okay, you like it or don't. You don't have a cascading stack of things to try and evaluate. Just like with any kind of scientific experiment you're going to be doing, one variable at a time. It's worked for me. My guns end up staying fairly simple because of it. I mean, when I was running ARs, red dot. That's all that was on it. It was not really very special. Just had a red dot. Shotgun. My shotgun's still currently bare after class. I don't think I'll be ready to start tossing red dots and lights on my shotgun for probably another 1,000 rounds of 12 gauge. Just because I want to make sure that everything that's on there, I am truly happy with the way it is.
Yeah. And I will just say, like, as we kind of round this out, like, every time and this isn't even a guns conversation. This is guns, trucks, freaking this is hiking boots. This is everything with me. And this is the way I encourage y'all to be out there in the audience. Every time I get something, it will not stabilize until I have effed with it 12 different ways. I'm going to tweak everything on it a tiny little bit until I find the way that works best for me. And only then am I going to leave it alone and it'll finally stop getting stuff taken off of it. That rifle behind me has been ripped down to bare receivers and completely rebuilt because what I had built at the time fit the set of requirements I had for it. It had to fit in a very small spot. It was a truck gun. So being able to fold and being very space efficient was key and took a lot of priority over a lot of other things. And then I didn't have need for it as a truck gun anymore because I had something else that fit that role. So this thing got ripped apart, turned into a carbine. And once I started putting things back onto the firearm, I started moving stuff. I started moving controls around. I started moving the Arisaka finger stop that's on there that kind of helps locate my hand. I kept moving stuff. I moved the optics package back and forward until I found the spot everything fit. And that's all I ever encourage people to do is do not be afraid to duct tape, zip tie, and modify and like hack, cut, and JB weld your way to the perfect thing for you. Because you should continue. Like, there are two schools of thought here. There's that person out there that says the weapon is the weapon, you learn to work around it, and that's the way that the military teaches us because they don't let you modify your weapons in the military. They're boring like that. Unless you're like one of the cool guys with the beards, they get to do all kinds of interesting
But to
stuff.
be fair, they need to be able to issue you rifle number 7 or rifle number 4,000.
Different set of requirements, right?
Exactly.
But here in the civilian world, we don't have those constraints upon us. So why not make the weapon fit your requirements as well as it can?
Exactly.
And if that means screwing with it 12 different times, then go for it.
Yeah, I just ask you do it in a scientific fashion so you know what you've changed and you know whether or not it works.
Yeah. And if you don't abide by that advice, because I don't, sometimes I change 3 things at once, but But what I am very particular about is that I don't change things without asking myself, why do I want to change this? Like I don't do changes because it's cool guy Instagram points. I could care. I do it because this isn't exactly the way I want it, and this isn't the best way I think works for me, so I'm going to fool with it. And it might be better, it might be worse, but at least I know what goalpost I'm running towards and not just what gets me likes on the gram.
You're modifying with intention.
Yes. Sometimes that intention's as simple as it makes me happy. That's perfect.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't like spray painting my guns. I just don't. Some people do. Some people love it. Fine, whatever. Does it really affect how the gun works? Probably not.
No. The day after the zombie apocalypse, I will Krylon all my firearms. But until then, there's something about a Krylon firearm that just makes my skin crawl, and I don't like it. It's fine for y'all. It's just not cool for me. So that's why my guns don't have like the cool guy Krylon paint jobs on them.
I have seen an awful lot of people that do it and have no problems after they've done it. I've seen people that have done it and then they have a real bear of a time taking things apart because they accidentally painted over something they shouldn't. Do I think that I would do that? Maybe. I've made worse mistakes before.
You do it at least 3 times if your history holds out.
Exactly. Probably 3 times.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and punt this one out the door. Prepper Camp is... So this episode, we're recording this on the 19th. y'all are listening to this probably on the 20th or after. Prepper Camp is next weekend. Nick will not be there. Andrew and I
This
will.
year.
We're going to record at least a morning podcast and post it from out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, you know, you might not get your content first thing in the morning on Friday because we have to post it and everything. It might be later in the morning. But we'll post some morning shows. We'll record as many people as want to come on the show as a guest. We're going to make sure we grab them and make some content. That will be coming out after we get home because that's a little bit of an editing job and a lot of bandwidth to get all that pushed up into the internet. And if you're out of prepper camp, come look for us. Like, we will not be hard to find if you come looking for us around the campsites. Just listen for the sound of hooliganism, and we will probably be right there in the middle of it. And come find us in the vendors area. My wife has taken command of the Matter of Facts booth, and it's going to be much nicer than anything I could have put together because she's so much smarter than I am when it comes to anything aesthetic.
That's why we have wives, man.
Thank Christ
They put
up with
everything
us.
together.
And they put up with us, which is a
True.
blessing. All right. Matter of fact's going out the door. Nick, thanks for joining me tonight. And I wish we could have hung on to Andrew for another half hour, but he had adult stuff to do, so we'll cut him some slack.
It's important.
Yeah, I guess. All right. Good night, everybody. Have fun. Stay out of trouble. Talk to you in a week. Bye.
Night.